Good afternoon, and welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Buzz, joined by Joseph Dion of Apley Home Loans, as usual. And I'm Brendan with the Homes Orlando team and Next Home. Got a lot of numbers, a lot of news that's come out. We had jobless numbers come out, GDP come out, consumer confidence come out. So a lot of stuff out there, and Zillow changing up their numbers a little bit overall. So Let's dive in. Where do you want to start, Joe?
I don't know. Where do you want? You want a hot seat? Let's talk rates. Why not?
Okay.
Right.
Well,
let's see. 10-year.
A little good news. Yeah. A little good news. We've seen the 10-year T do a little rebound, which we hadn't seen haven't seen in probably 4 or 5 months, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
So last week, I think we're actually up above 4.5. We've dropped now down to roughly 4.29. We had dropped to about 4.25, I think it was yesterday. So a little relief, not a whole lot. How's that affected what you've been able to offer?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this, if you go between the lows that we saw in early December of last year, we kind of went from there, then we kind of spiked back up on interest rates because we saw the 10-year go up. Kind of conversely, now we're seeing it start to pull back. So we're seeing some aggressiveness on rates, a lot better pricing today than there was at the start of the year, which has also driven a little bit of the market. Like we always say that the market responds to all this news. So we're seeing, the homes are there. Now are people willing to move on some homes? So when we see rates start to pull down, for us, lower interest rates, we see more people pull the trigger.
Yep. And I didn't really see anything significant in the news to kind of push it down. I know the consumer confidence, that's kind of taken a little bit of a hit. The outlook, I guess, economically, people are not feeling the robustness that they're feeling, that they've wanted to feel. I think part of that, quite honestly, is having to do with the changeover in administration, because quite contrary to the way the last administration used to do things. A lot more, we're just going to push ahead. And I think it's led to a lot of uncertainty in the market. I mean, we've seen Bitcoin, the S&P take a hit, the Dow take a hit, and people kind of moving over into treasuries, into what they feel is a safer investment. I mean, you're still getting, over 4%. We almost did an inversion on the 10-year and the 1 month this past week. It didn't quite break it, but it came very close to it. So you got some people, moving into more of what they feel, I guess, is a long-term safety. If you look right now, I mean, Warren Buffett actually is the number one holder of U.S. Treasury bills right now. What's he sitting on? I think it's jumped to almost $350 billion of cash right now that he's sitting on.
Well, I know he's been selling and he's been liquidating a lot of his investments because he kind of wrote it, and I think he's seeing there, and he's notoriously more conservative with it. And I think that's something where he's seeing a trend. And the hard part is if you think about it, we're a week off of hitting all-time highs in SPY. Like I think it was last Wednesday, that we closed at the highest point ever for SPY.
Yep.
On the stock market, and we're 2.5% below since that. So we've lost it, which seems like a smaller number, but that's a pretty big move especially for something that has been almost green, I think, for the better part of 18 months every day.
Yeah. I think if the sentiment stays the way it is, we're not at the consumer confidence came in at a 98, which it's nothing robust, but it's not horrible. Usually they say that, around an 80 is a recession. So we're still well above that. But I think people are just still feeling, tight. I mean, my gosh, I was joking with a lady at Publix because she almost dropped some eggs the other day when she got them out. I'm like, don't do that. There goes your whole month's salary. Don't do that. I mean, you look at them and you're just like, holy cow, they're, an egg.
Yeah.
So that's, I think it's going to still take a couple more months to really start people to get comfortable. I know people are still nervous about, the tariffs. Trump came out and said, yes, Canada, Mexico, we're going to hit them with the 25% starting next week. So, I know people are a little nervous about that. It's just, it's going to take, it's going to take 6 months, I think, to really kind of wash out and see how things are going to start to turn. But right now, that doldrum can actually be beneficial to buyers, because as you're going to see in the numbers, boy, is inventory exploding and price cuts are increasing. And what happened is Zillow actually came out this week and they revised their numbers overall, and because they were saying they were going to have roughly about a 2.9% increase for the year.
Is what they were projecting. Yep.
To flat 0.9. That's it. So, I mean, that is truly a completely flat market, really no appreciation this year. And they've got about 20 markets they're saying that they could actually see decrease, with Orlando being one of those. So that's one of the things we're going to have to watch. But overall, you're just seeing that market. And Zillow's usually doesn't adjust their numbers too much. They don't like to do that too often.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because we're talking about appreciation and those details as it relates to it. And a lot of this was the expectation that we were going to see a 20%. Like, there's a lot of talk going into the end of the year last year that 2025, we're going to see roughly a 20% increase in home sales. So they were saying like, hey, there's the expectation rates were going to go down. There's going to lower. You look at the election. We get the election, rates start to initially go down. Like, all these forecast models are happening in, September, October, November, everything gets released. And then all of a sudden, early December, rates spike again. And I think we're still recovering from that initial spike. And it's like, well, they thought we were going to be heading into January on a downtrend on interest rates for home buying, which would have stimulated home buying in the first quarter. And instead, we started the first quarter on an uptrend, essentially up until about, start of February. And I think that little bit of shift was enough for a lot of people to go, okay, wait a minute, we gotta adjust, including Zillow here, is maybe the demand that we forecasted isn't going to be there. And if it's not there, then we might not see the appreciation we once expected.
Yeah, I think that is a major factor. I think the other one was, I don't think they calculated the number of homes that were going to come on the market. I think we've had a bigger amount of listings hit the market than they also thought they were going to have as well across the country. I think a lot of that is a lot of people actually kind of getting that feeling that, okay, the election's over. Let me go ahead. Everything's going to start turning around. Let me go ahead and let me list my home. Same type of philosophy for a lot of the owners. Like, okay, I've been waiting for the election to get over. The election's over. Okay, let's go ahead and let's list my house. Problem is, everyone else kind of had the same conception. Okay, let's go ahead and list my house. And that has really jumped the number of homes on the market tremendously for everybody. And it's causing, as we get into the numbers for Orlando, you're going to see that it's causing some big discounts that we haven't seen in a long time. One of the other things that came out this week was the home sale. And the home sales actually, for new construction home sales, were down 10.5%. That has, a lot of people, I thought that was going to increase as well for people. And we've actually gotten up to close to 9 months worth of inventory for home sales as well. And you look at the numbers here and you see the new homes sold, the volume dropped to 657,000. Sorry about that. So they've dropped to 657,000. Okay. The median price actually is still going up. That's what I find interesting, is the median price is still going up overall, but we're still down from we're even down from last year. We're down 1.1% from last year, down 10.5% from the previous month. So new home construction is just, it's not, those aren't moving either. And you can see here, we got 495,000 new homes on the market, which is a 9-month inventory. And that's a good reason why we're still seeing all the discounts and all the interest incentives that all the builders are getting. Like I said, we actually put one under contract, new construction, Stanley Martin, DeBerry, that originally listed for $396,000. And we're closing on it at $346,000. That's a $50,000 discount on a house, plus they threw in $5,000 worth of closing costs.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
It's crazy. But there's there's tons of opportunities out there. And probably one of the biggest things that I'm amazed at are the announcements of all the new developments still being built. And the price tags on them to start with are the $400,000 and up. There's a small development company who's going to be building down in the Milk District. They're going to be building some new townhomes, and they're going to start at $600,000 to $700,000. And I'm thinking, you're nuts. There's Toll Brother townhomes that have been for sale down there that they started, I believe, at almost $795,000. They're down to, I think, 6.25 right now, somewhere in that ballpark on the pricing, and they're still not moving. So to me, builders got to adjust somehow. I know land costs are one of the biggest things that they run into is that they purchased during the peak. They've paid a tremendous amount of money for these new construction properties or the land to develop on, and they've got to recoup a lot of that cost. But man, it's going to be tough for you. It's going to be very tough for you to recoup it. It's not in the short term, anyways. So you got that, and then when we actually get into what we look at for Orlando, these numbers are pretty much, we've been staying so stagnant for really the past 5-6 months. The number of sales hasn't budged at all. We're still averaging a little over 300, 330, 340, 350 homes a week. Our active listings for single family, that's the highest it's been since, I believe, 2018. Over 8,000. We actually broke over the 8,000 mark. And you can see we've got a 5.73 months, which is 6 months worth of inventory. People say 6 months is kind of like the break even. You and I've had this discussion before that with technology and the way things go, I don't think it is. I think that's a buyer's market. I think the break even, the even point these days is really that 3-month window, not the 6 month anymore.
Agreed.
Because of the differences in the way people can access houses and everything. And then when we get up into the 500 to $1 million and over $1 million, I mean, this truly is turning into a buyer's market. We got nearly 7 months, 500 to $1 million, and over $1 million. We've got almost a year's worth of inventory now in homes over $1 million.
Yeah, and it's affordability, right? Like. Right where they are, like that's the hard part. Values, the over $1 million used to be such a small part of the market. You have 10% of the market is over $1 million in active listings.
Isn't that amazing? And because I remember you used to say to somebody, "Oh, they've got $1 million home," and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, it's huge, it's this mansion." And you see some ranches these days that they price at $1 million, and you're like, "You're kidding? You want $1 million for that?" Like, no way! I'm not paying it. I don't know who will. But then you start looking at the discounts that they're having to give now. I mean, you look at the original list, the sales price, and in the $1 million, they're giving basically about over a 20% discount. $200,000 off the original list price. If I'm looking at buying a home over $1 million, got a client who is looking at a house over $1 million, I'm looking at these numbers and I'm just thinking, man, I can be aggressive as I want to be because there's no one else out there really looking at these houses anymore. Yeah. And then even when you get into the median priced homes, the 250 to 300,000, look at this. They're giving nearly a 9% discount, 8 to 9% discount off a list price. Here's 5.5% on the 300 to 400K. And the houses are staying on the market longer. Average is 72 days right now. So a lot of people are sitting and watching the houses. I know I've got one client, we looked at a house last weekend. Beautiful house, absolutely gorgeous house. And he was all worried about it. And I'm just like, it's priced. I think it's priced well, but I'm like, I just don't think you're going to see a lot of people jump on it, right? I think you're going to see people kind of, sit back and see if they're going to do a price cut. Once they do the price cut, I think then they'll probably go ahead and jump onto it. But very few houses are being jumped on within the first week anymore at all. So you've got time to sit there and look at different things that are going on. Well, gotta get back to used to doing these, Joe.
You're good, man. So we're in good shape. It is very interesting, the market as a whole. Like we have it. We have inventory. It's what we wanted. It's been building. We've been talking about this, and we are in a like you said. There's every buyer. I would say every contract I get into my inbox is either below asking price or with seller concessions.
And I think it's going to be that way for, quite honestly, for quite a while. I really do. So it kind of, to me, we've got to start looking at different strategies to help. I know for people who feel they're locked in to because of their interest rate, what do they do? What can they do? Well, the rental market still seems to be fairly strong in Orlando. So I think you got to start looking at, do I keep the current house, do a home equity, and rent it out and wait for the market to rebound a little bit?
Yeah.
I think that's a way forward that a lot of people are going to have to start looking at these things. Then again, with the concessions, we talk to our buyers all the time, is what's the best use of those concessions going to be? How can we utilize it to get you the best price overall? I know some of the other things that the state is looking at. I know DeSantis has been hounding about it, is getting rid of the property tax. Do I think that will happen? No. But I'll have this ready for next week. Hopefully we'll have some good news on this, is increasing that homestead exemption up to $100,000. My wife was asking me the other night, it's like, what would it mean to us? Oh, so that's probably another $600 or $700 back in our pocket per year, which is, doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're a family of four, that's a lot of, it's still a lot of money overall.
Still $50 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Which the way my two 16-year-olds eat, trust me, it will go very, very quickly. So, but anytime you've got that little bit extra, it's always nice to have that in your pocket.
Yep.
So if you're looking out there as a buyer, it may be a really good time to buy simply because the new construction homes are offering some amazing discounts on rates, but also the sellers are starting to learn that they've got to adjust their whole philosophy on how they sell a house, because they are competing against new construction. So they've got to come up, and we're trying to be savvy with our listings. Is, hey, this is what the competition is doing around you. And if you're looking in Deltona, DeBerry, DeLand, all these home sellers are competing against a lot of new construction that's going on. So okay, we're going to have to figure out a way to be incentive. So I know one thing you and I've talked about is providing them a discount if they work with our preferred lender, which of course is you, and that way they can. It's a little incentive. Plus, we get to make sure that it's being done right. I'm sorry, I've been at this long enough that I know when you tell me that someone's pre-approved and the loan's going to close, I'm 100% confident. I don't have to worry about that at all anymore. Yeah. And that is such a relief as a real estate agent to be able to have that comfort. Whereas I get a thing from Rocket Mortgage or Quicken Loans or whoever, you're sweating bullets every minute of the day. What are they going to pull? You may get one good one and 6 bad ones. That's kind of been my experience with it overall. And
that's tough.
It's scary when you've got dominoes going. If this one doesn't close, then this one doesn't close, then this one doesn't close, and everybody's mad and they're all screaming at you.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned it, like, now more than ever, it matters. Like, you put a house pending and then you put it back active on the market. People aren't thinking the buyer must have had something wrong. They're thinking there must be something wrong with the house.
Yep, that is. And
as a seller, you can't afford that anymore. You can't afford to go back on the market, because now you're stale. Now you're old. Now it's why did they lose the contract? Was it a bad appraisal? Was it this? Was inspections bad? Nobody's pausing to go, I bet the lender made a mistake. And the reality is, the loan who you work with matters so much.
It does.
And kind of like what you said is, when you're writing the sale as a seller and you need to rely on that sale, you need to make sure that the team in your corner is strong.
Yep. Give you a perfect example. It actually wasn't a loan, but here's a situation where I've got one of my listing. It's a domino effect. The gentleman who's buying it's from California. He's selling a piece of property in California on the coast for $2.1 million.
Yep.
So that sale has to happen for us to sell my list. Been in contact, double checked everything. And the day before the closing for the purchase of his property, the owner tells the agent, oh, I can't close tomorrow because my CD of $4 million does not mature until April 20th. We're just like, what? No one checked this out. No one on their side.
Nobody verified beforehand.
Yeah, it's like you knew the money was coming from a CD. You didn't check the maturity date, and she knew it, but didn't tell anyone until the day before.
Wow.
So you want to talk about scrambling and reworking the deal so that my client wasn't harmed in any way. We had ended up having to take a higher deposit, straight up hard release to him, and we actually charged them a per diem until because that's what it would have cost him. And we didn't want to go back on the market, but we kind of had to also stand our ground because we had to make sure he wasn't being harmed in this situation.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. He was going to be harmed. And I wasn't going to let that happen. So fortunate we were able to work it out. But that's just an example of some of the things that can go wrong. So you always want to minimize, and the relationships that we build over years are so important in that. So that's our catch up for the day. Please like and subscribe and join us again next Thursday for the Orlando Real Estate Buzz. And we will keep you up to date on everything, both national and local, in the real estate market. Take care.